Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone at Will Studio. Um, so we're back. Sorry I left you guys for a minute. Real quick, my wife did have our baby. He is doing great. She is doing great. We're all doing great. So thank you for any thoughts and prayers, that sorts of thing. But we got through it. We're good to go. That's why I've been MIA for a little bit. Missed some stuff, no doubt about it. Last time we spoke, A&M was 7-2. It had the rough loss to South Carolina, going into a bye week. Everything's still on the table even after that. You could kind of, not excuse it, but I kind of understood. I wasn't as upset about that one. Obviously, you beat New Mexico State. Thank you, Kalachi Matt. Appreciate that very much. You beat New Mexico State, kind of a scrimmage looking type game. And then what we get into is what everyone wants to hear about. So you lose a 4 overtime game at Auburn, who will miss a bowl game this season at 5-7. And then you lose to your bitter rival, Texas, at home. First time in 13 years. No need to rehash what that game meant and those types of things, but probably going to spend a lot more time forward looking in this episode than just kind of rehashing those last two games. I'll definitely get into it, and give my thoughts, but I think you guys already know like you watched the game, you saw what happened. But we can still kind of get into it for a little bit. But a lot of this is going to be focused on what can we do going forward. And shout out to my wife who is listening to my son posting under my wife saying, "You sound great in here." Signed, Graham. So yeah, we're doing great. But so Auburn, quite frankly, way more upset about the outcome of that game than I am about the Texas game. Against Texas, I think you just played a team that was better than you, and they gave you chances to be in it, even though you shouldn't have been, and you weren't able to take advantage of some of those things. But you take who the opponent, you take the uniform off, and just look at it objectively. Like that's fine. It sucks. I hate it, but it's fine. Auburn, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure in our last time I spoke to you guys, I was ragging on Auburn. I don't take any of it back. Auburn, I'm pretty sure I said if we lose to Auburn, we're not any good because Auburn sucks. I don't disagree with that. Auburn does suck. We went over there and played a crap game. We played a crap first half, got down 21-0 in the first first 1.5 quarters. Yeah, it's inexcusable, is what it is. And I've said that word over and over. Obviously, within the context of everything I'm going to say here today, obviously, this is the year one of a head coach. I think we do need to give coaches time, but we can still call a spade and say, hey, and be critical and say, hey, that wasn't good enough. That was piss poor. And, I don't care if you're down you're down some running backs. I think a couple of DBs went out in that game, obviously showed down the stretch, but it wasn't even that. Like there was plenty of things you could have done to win that football game, and you didn't get it done. Your team came out flat for the second road game in a row, and I'm not down with that. So those two games, South Carolina and Auburn, give me pause for any kind of not any kind, but like give me a lot of pause going into next season. And I've people keep asking me. I get asked every summer, "Hey, what's A&M look like? Is A&M going to be good this year? Like how are they looking?" And I tell them like, "Hey, like yeah, we look good. Like physically, we look good. We have a talented football team, and we should win a bunch of games." And that leads me to inevitably pick us to go 10-2, like I had the last two seasons, I believe, maybe even three. I'm not doing that next year, and I don't care who we sign in the portal and all that kind of stuff. Until this program, this team can prove to me, hey, we can go out there and not fall apart in November and win the games we're supposed to, and not go out and lay multiple eggs in a season, then I'll start picking them again. But I'll tell you right now, next August, y'all hold me to this. Uh, if I pick A&M to go 10-2 or better next season, someone comment on here and just tell me to quit doing this, because it's the definition of insanity at that point. But Kalachi Matt comment on Twitter, agree with this wholeheartedly. He says we have to be more proactive on offense in the first quarter. Too many times we fell behind multiple scores before we woke up. I don't disagree. And I think in both of those games, actually in all three of them, in South Carolina and Auburn and Texas, we had the ball, had some decent drives to start those games. And I know against South Carolina, we went for it on our own side of the field, missed it, and then we're down 14-0. But I know Auburn and Texas both, we got down there, pretty close to the red zone, maybe 35, 30-yard line at least. And against Auburn, we throw a pick. Against Texas, we go for it on 4th and 1, don't get it. So I think they did some decent things in trying to, script that first drive and get ahead of things and kind of put their best foot forward. But in all three of those, they didn't finish it off. Against LSU, they started very poorly. That's a whole different topic, how they started on that one. But I think it's both sides. I think against Auburn, just so disappointed in how the defense played. Especially, felt like up front, just like Auburn's O-line it's not that great. Of course, Peyton Thorne, who is not a good quarterback, picked that day to have the best day of his life, throwing the ball. And sometimes I get it, stuff happens. You're down, you're trying to work your left guard back in, who's on a bum ankle. You're down to your, last two running backs, who really aren't built to shoulder that kind of load. And a young quarterback with, let's be honest, not a ton of help around him. I need to go back and look at how many drops we had. I know we had at least, obviously the big one at the end of the Auburn game, but that game should have been decided well before that. It's hard to even, I know it's bad, and it's a play that Amari needs to make, but that game should have never been in overtime. So, but I know Theo dropped a big one on a big third down that would have converted. Barber dropped one. Just all in all, and I do want to give just a little bit of leeway, and maybe this is just it's going to sound like making an excuse for myself and my prediction. But if you told me in August, you say, hey, halfway through the season, there's a quarterback controversy. Wigman does not play like he's capable of playing and gets benched, and then Marcel plays the last half of the season, I would have probably predicted 8-4 or worse at that point. Because a lot of what I was tying my hopes to was the schedule, the defensive line, and the quarterback. I thought we would get plus quarterback play this season, and even if we didn't have the guys at receiver or tight end even, I thought Connor had shown enough to, make quick decisions, get the ball out accurately, and just do those types of things enough to where you could win, 10 games if things went your way. And they still could have done that. That's what's frustrating, is even with all of that, you still could have gone and won at South Carolina. You could have gone and won at Auburn. And even with a loss to Texas, who is, as much as we don't want to say it, is better than you are right now. Even with that, you're still 10-2. Tremendous first year. You're in the playoff. These other dipshit teams that are trying to say, "Oh, look at our schedule," and Ole Miss, and that's such. And I get you have to promote yourself, but if you want to be in the playoff that badly, don't lose 3 games. Don't lose to Kentucky or Vanderbilt or Oklahoma. It's if A&M had just taken care of business, they'd be in that conversation. And instead, they're back where they've been the past 25 years at 8-4 and just steady. Obviously, it was worse than that sometimes, but really since the Sumlin era, after Sumlin's first year, it's just 8-4, 7-5, 8-4. 9-4 with the bowl. You can't win. You can't win 10 in a season, even though COVID they would have. I'll give them that, but still, it's flatly and undeniably not good enough. I think 8-4 is a failed season in any year, especially when you had this kind of advantage to your schedule. And honestly, it really does come down to the Auburn game for me. And I don't want to dwell on that for too long because I'll get pissed off. But that game pissed me off for like well into the next week, like almost Thanksgiving Day. And like everyone's talking about Texas, and I'm like, yeah, that's exciting, but I'm really mad we dropped that one because we shouldn't have. So I'll move on to Texas, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but not much more to say. I will say that in some cases, perception can go a long way, and if you really watch this game, you know that 17-7 was not really. It was nowhere near that close. We couldn't do anything on offense at all the entire day. We had a couple drives where we would put it together and like make a couple of like chunk plays and then just stall out and punt or, obviously, on the first drive they went for it, didn't get it. A couple other times got set up with good position and couldn't get it done. You scored zero offensive points. In a big time winner take all rivalry game, and the defense wasn't much better. The defense, I mean, they did and didn't get lucky. Like they had the fumble and the pick six, but they should have had two other picks as well in that game. Will Lee dropped one on the goal line that Quinn just threw right to him. Bryce Anderson should have easily picked that ball up to Gunnar Helm. And then in the second half, they kind of leaned on you with their run game, and we couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, I mean, and I guess this is where I get to the point about the 13-year head start and that narrative that's going around. And yeah, like that's, if people outside of here want to say that, that's fine. I'm not the article police. But for fans of this football team, we already knew that we messed that up. Yeah, we had 13 years in this league, but we just blew the whole thing up a year ago. Like literally last year, we blew it all up. We said, hey, we're going to pay the biggest buyout of all time to get rid of our coach, and we don't care what players we lose. We have to completely clean house, get everyone that's here, on staff, get them out of here, and try something new and reset the culture because it has gotten to a point that is not acceptable. Texas, on the other hand, has cleaned up their act quite a bit, has really supported Sark from a coaching hire standpoint and an NIL standpoint, and not to take away from them, like that's what you're supposed to do, and they've gone and done it, and we should give them credit for that. That's what we need to go and do now. They're in year 4, we're in year 1. It's not 13 or whatever, I'm not on that timetable. We're already past that. It's, hey, they're in year 4, they're farther along in the process, they're doing a very good job. We have to give ourselves a little bit of time and patience to get to that point. So the next 2 seasons, so here's the thing. It does not matter if for some unfortunate reason we go, 6-6 next year, we're still not going to fire, the head coach. And I think this is the next thing on my sheet, but on my note sheet. But with the transfer portal and the kind of new way of college football, I think fans are, fans want instant gratification, and I think that we, at least speaking for myself, I thought with what they brought in through the portal and most of what we already had here, with a coaching upgrade from what we had, culture upgrade, strength upgrade, that sort of thing. I was like, okay, that should get you 9 or 10 wins on this schedule. It didn't, and maybe some of those things were worse than we thought. But you look back at this season, and you take away 3 guys, and 2 are transfers, and one was recruited by the previous staff. You take away Le'Veon Moss, Will Lee the third, and Nick Scorton, and are you 6-6? Do you lose to LSU? Do you lose to you probably lose to Arkansas without Moss, Scorton, or Lee? LSU, I mean, Moss played a pretty big role in that. I know it was the Marcel show, but you're a couple key guys away from it really being bad. And obviously, in the context of all of this, you didn't have Moss the last 5 games of the year. That is a big, big deal, and it's not an excuse, but it is a reason. And once he went down, once the run game, we couldn't lean on that anymore. That's when you're like, okay. I bet our coaches were just racking their brains, like, how can we manufacture some kind of offense without our best player? and they tried. Give it to them. They tried. They put Terry Bussey back there a little bit. Reuben Owens came back from a freaking, I don't know, like a Lisfranc fracture in his foot. At least that's what I'm pretty sure it was, which is a 8-9 month recovery, if I'm not mistaken, or longer. And he did that in August, and he played against Texas. Obviously it wasn't 100%, but we tried it. We tried everything that they could, and I know there's play call issue with the play calls and things like that from these last couple of games. But the one that bugs me the most, and probably you guys too, is the 4th and 1 late against Texas. I believe that was after the fumble. No, it was the block punt is what it was. I'm pretty sure. After the block punt, you have great field position, deep in Texas territory, and you can make this a 3-point ball game really quick. Now, the decision to go, I agree with 100%. Texas had stifled you all day on defense. You were probably not gonna get that close again for the rest of the game. So you try to get 7. You're right. You're on the door. You should be able to get a touchdown when you're that close. You get that, you try to get the ball back, maybe tie it up with a field goal. I agree with the decision to go 100%. The play call I hate. I mean, it's just, you've seen it on getting ripped to shreds on Twitter, and everyone's like, well, what could you have done different? And, that sort of thing. Every time in that situation where I've seen a team go play action, there's a guy wide open in the end zone every single time. Texas was not worried 1 iota about us throwing the ball right there. They had 11 guys, keying the run game, keying on Marcel and Amari. And in my opinion, my very novice, non-coach opinion, I think a play action where you leak someone out, like a tight end, I think it's going to be there all day, to be honest. And I was pretty bummed we didn't do that, and obviously felt very, very shitty about the result in them having a big goal line stand to pretty much end that game. But so that brings us to what comes next. To be honest, and I did just say I will not pick this team to win 10 games next year until they prove to me they can do it, but I can be optimistic about how they can do it and what they are doing to get to that point. So, signing day yesterday, that wrapped up. I believe the transfer portal kicks off in earnest on the 9th. I think you're already seeing kids put their names in. There's just an insane amount of players it's hard to keep up with. I wrote down some of the ones I got my eye on. We'll get to here in a bit, but a lot going on right now, a lot that can happen in the span of a couple of weeks, maybe this month, that can really set you up next season to take a big step forward. So real quick, let's do this. Let's go through. I got everyone on here. Here's a list of the seniors who are not able to return. They have no years remaining of eligibility. Jabri Barber, Moose Muhammad, Jade Walker, E.J. Smith, Shane Calhoun, Trey Watson, Shamar Turner, Rodis Johnson, Josh Seliskar, Solomon DeShields, B.J. Mays, Jaden Hill, Trey Jones. So some receivers. Two of your, Barber and Walker played quite a bit this year. Moose was what he was. EJ, both the tight ends, Calhoun and Watson, Turner and Johnson on the D line, and then B.J. Mays and Jaden Hill, both the guys that played nickel pretty much for you all season after Chappelle went out. Those guys cannot return. They have to move on to the next stage. There's a couple of seniors and who have not made a decision, who I think do have the ability to come back if I can figure out how to filter on Google Sheets. Yeah, so Garrett Miller, the tight end transfer from Purdue, didn't play at all this season. Believe that was an injury. I think he could apply for a medical, or I'm not sure if he's used his original red shirt yet or not, but I think he would have another year if he wanted to. Don't know the extent of his injury. And then Tyreek Chappelle obviously could redshirt this season with his injury in the first game of the season, and come back next year. Randy Bond, kicker, I think he can come back. I'm pretty sure I saw that get confirmed the other day. Hope he can. He was really good this year. We don't really have one in the pipeline. I think we had a preferred walk-on that just signed, so may need to portal a kicker. We'll see about that, see if Randy comes back. And then, of course, the kids who have, for A&M, who've already decided to transfer out of the program. At this point, we have 8, unless someone's gone in since I've started recording, which is totally possible. I've got wide receiver Cyrus Allen, quarterback Jalen Henderson, quarterback Connor Wigman, tight end Jaden Platt, offensive lineman Aki Ogumbi, defensive end Malik Silla, defensive lineman Gabe Brownlow-Dindy, and defensive tackle Samu Tamanu Pepe. Obviously, the big one that we all saw coming there, Connor Wigman. You probably saw the video of him walking around Kyle Field for the last time after the Texas game. Very sad. A lot of people don't care as much about, just the general well-beings of or just they don't care as much about the players now that it's more of a transactional type model. But I've got a soft spot for Wigman. If you listen to me, I've been a fan from day one, from his sophomore tape of high school through midway this season, when I finally said, hey, enough's enough. For whatever reason, he ain't got it right now. And I think the injuries really have done a number on him and his psyche. Quarterback's a very mental position to play in sports. Maybe one of the most, up there with, pitcher and probably those two, or probably the two ones where you can get in your head and really get the yips. And he's got a bad case of the yips. And whatever it is, if it's just a change of scenery, just a different place, different coaching staff, different environment. If he needs more time to get back in shape after the foot injury last season, I don't know what it is, but was obviously not going to work out here for him, and you couldn't wait around on him to get right. You have to ride either with Reed or some other options and see what you can do at quarterback. But tip of the cap to Connor Wigman. Hey, we'll always have the Mizzou game. That was great. But yeah, so you take it, you move on. Obviously, the 2022 class will go down as the biggest bust of all time. Probably the most A&M thing that someone could possibly do is break the record for best recruiting class ever, have almost all of them transfer out, and have very few left 3 years later. And not because they went to the NFL, but because they were busts or character problems or any other issue that we had. But hey, that's in the past. So you're going to see jokes about it. It's fine. just you let that stuff roll off your back and keep moving on. But other quarterback Jalen Henderson, he did some great things for us last season. I think Marcel has probably the higher upside as a passer. Really like Henderson though. Hope he gets a shot somewhere. I think he can really play. Cyrus Allen, I think had a pretty bad injury against New Mexico State. He's moving on. That leads me to believe what's going to be a big topic on this show is what can we do at receiver to get better? I'm of the opinion, we'll get to that in a minute, but we're probably going to take or quite a few guys from the portal at that position. Elsewhere, Jaden Platt, a redshirt freshman tight end. Liked him a lot, man. He never got in the mix this year, was a younger player. You figure he would have factored in next season. That one's probably the most shocking of these. Aki, older guy, needs to get playing time. Brownlow Dindy, don't know if it's injury or what. Seemed like he never really got healthy after he got here. Samu, was hoping he would kind of come into his own maybe next season and contribute. And then Malik Silla, he probably wants a place where I lost my video. Great. He probably wants a place where he can. Oh, there we go. We're back. Malik Silla on a team like A&M, probably more of a pass rush specialist. I personally think he would have played quite a bit next season. Maybe he wants to go and be a full-time starter somewhere else and not be a rotational guy. Which hey, that's all well and good. You gotta reload. But so those are all the guys that have left so far, either to eligibility or to the transfer portal. We do not have any NFL decisions at this time actually we do. We have two coming back for sure. In Willie the third, the cornerback, and Scooby Williams at linebacker. Two pretty significant returns, if we're being honest. I think Willie was easily the best corner, best DB on your defense, period. Best corner we've had here in quite a while. And getting him back for another season can really shore up that secondary, give Des Ricks another year in the program, another year, got a year under his belt now of playing time. And then some young guys, so, but bringing back Will Lee, that's a big boost for your secondary. Scooby Williams, I think he went out against Texas, and you kind of really saw a decline in the run defense once he did. I think he got better as the year went on. Still had some mistakes. I mean, that's that is what it is. But he flashed it much more than he let you down. So I think he's a guy that can continue to grow in this defense and play at a high level next year. And we got some young guys at linebacker that are are going to be able to step up as well. So, but nothing from Nick Scorton, nothing from Shamar Stewart at this time. Those are probably the two most likely. But nothing else, or nothing either from Trey Zune or from Armaje Reed Adams. As we get those in, we'll definitely, bring them up here. But real quick, I'm going to take a little break and play for you this video from Elko's press conference after the signing class yesterday, where he was asked about NIL. So here is your head coach, Mike Elko.
Go front row right, Travis, and then Mark.
So look at a lot of the changing landscape of things. I know there's reports that some states have been able to already go into rev share deals with their student athletes. I know the law here prohibits that still. Was that at all any challenges with that? And how do you see that shaping things up moving forward?
No, that wasn't a challenge for us at all. I think we're in a really good spot, and I don't think NIL played any role. NIL didn't play any role in our inability to land anyone. Maybe our NIL plan didn't allow us to get involved with certain kids or to continue to recruit certain kids or to match a number that might have allowed us to land certain kids. But that was more of an internal plan than it was a lack of resources. I think you have to be really intelligent when you manage this thing, how you manage it for the culture of your program. You see some of these insane freshman deals. I would just like to know how the upperclassmen in their program feel when these freshmen come in making 5 times more than the returning starter. And so I think that will be a really interesting dynamic for a lot of these programs when these freshmen show up on campus.
No,
So yeah, Coach didn't really mince any words there. I think, and I'll be honest with you guys, I've, not that I'm the most plugged in person of all time. I do have some sources that I feel pretty confident in. I'm not going to put anything out there regarding what he's talking about, but yeah, we've heard the same, and some of the numbers that get thrown around would shock you. And I mean, just look at Michigan flipping Bryce Underwood, the quarterback that was committed to LSU, and giving him $10.5 million over 4 years. That's unheard of at the college level. So there's other players that and I'm sure, like he said, we stepped up to the bat or to the plate in terms of NIL, and we did enough to get the players we got. We got some really dang good ones, but there were some out there that had some higher price tags that we were like, okay, going off what he said just there, saying, hey, we're going to bow out instead of trying to push for that number. I buried the lead here, 31 minutes in, but it's in my description on this episode, wherever you can find it, except for maybe Twitter. It's also in the ticker at the bottom on the video on YouTube. If you're an A&M fan and you watch this team and follow this team religiously, like I do, go to TexasAggiesUnited.com and donate to the NIL Collective. That's the name of the game, and I think from everything I can tell, A&M has stepped up tremendously on that front and has really put themselves among the best. They're not number one. I don't know how close to number one they are, but I think there's a couple teams at the very, very top who you can probably guess. And then I think A&M is kind of in that next tier, battling it out with some of the other ones up in the top. But I think top, A&M is probably in the top 10 of NIL. And when you look at the top programs in the country and what top 10 even means, it's a good group to be in. We obviously need to keep getting better. And if you want to keep getting better, you can take matters into your own hands and go to TexasAggiesUnited.com. But enough about that. I'll get off my soapbox. Let's hit recruiting. Try to go quickly. There's 24 guys here to talk about. And just kind of some big picture stuff. But we'll go recruiting, then we'll go transfers, which is much more, I think, more impactful for next season. So this class is signed, sealed, delivered. I'm pretty sure Elko went on to say yesterday that he does not see us adding anyone else to the 2025 recruiting class. This is who we got, is these guys, and they're pretty happy with that. I think overall, I think it's a really good to potentially great class. I don't think it's an elite class, but I think it's very, very good. As a fan and someone who follows this stuff, I'm pretty happy with it. I think next year they could do even better. They finished ninth overall. They have 2 5-star commits. And so out of 24, you've got, well, they put 25, but one of those guys is a preferred walk-on, the other quarterback. So out of 24, you've got 2 5-stars, 18 4-stars, and 4 3-stars. Pretty good distribution, obviously well within the blue chip ratio that every team should strive to be in. If you want to win a title, that's where you need to be. So A&M is already there. This class will increase their average. So that's, well, I guess technically when 2022 rolls off, it'll even out a little bit. But we already talked about how bad that one was in terms of the hit rate. So ninth overall, not bad. All things considered, I think next season they've got a shot to finish in the top 3. I think they're number one right now. Now that can change drastically in very little time. So definitely not doing any victory laps on next year's class just yet. But so this year, let's get into it. I think they did a great job of adding speed to the roster. A&M has been a very, very slow team for a very long time. They added speed at defensive back. They added it at receiver. Maybe, obviously with 2 5 stars, one of them being a receiver, definitely one of the biggest gets in the class. Jerome Miles from Utah joined just in the last couple, I think on signing day, announced his commitment, had been committed to USC since the summer, but A&M didn't give up. They kept on him. 6'2", 210. Damn good receiving prospect, guys. This is, you need at least one of these guys every single year. They got one here in Jerome Miles. 6'2", 210, runs a 10.36 100 meter, according to the head coach, Mike Elko. That is blazing fast if you don't follow or know much about track times. Devon Achane ran a 10.2 in high school, and Miles runs a 10.36. So stupid fast, great ball skills, great route running on his tape. Only slight concern here is as it pertains to next season. I believe he tore his ACL back in September, maybe early October, but that could prevent him from being a day one starter, instant impact type guy. Maybe as the season goes on next year, certainly a guy when he gets to full strength can help you out next season. But let's not heap all of our hopes on this kid just yet. But I think he'll get there one day, and he's going to be a good one for sure. Also at the top, the highest rated player in the class, Lamont Rogers, offensive tackle, 6'6 and a half, 311 from Mesquite Horn here in Texas. So in the state of Texas, if you follow this stuff, there were 3 elite left tackle prospects or tackle prospects in the state this year. All 5 stars, all very highly rated. You had to get one. Like that's a position where this year I think they were good, they were improved, but you want to be elite on the lines, and especially on the O line at tackle. This is a guy you can build around that can step. Like he probably could play next year if he needed to. You should get a couple of these guys back to where you don't need him. But 26 and 27, maybe 28 seasons if he's still here. That should be your starting, like one of your starting tackles, no doubt about it. Obviously the size, but the arm length, wingspan is certainly there. The physicality, the quick feet, just not a lot of holes in Rogers' game at this point. Obviously needs to get in the weight room and be in a college weight program, but he's going to get that at A&M, and he's a player I'm very excited about because he's the highest rated O lineman since Kenyon Green. Kenyon had a great career here, so hopefully Rogers can do the same. Really quick, I believe this is correct, and I'll bring it up later if not, but of the 24, I think 23 are early enrollees. They'll be here in the spring, which is awesome. Get them some extra time in a college weight program, nutrition program, that sort of thing. I think the only one that's not is Jerome Miles, the receiver. So you kind of wish you could get him, but I'm sure he's doing his own rehab and doing a great job with all that. So that's something we'll. I think 23 or 24 is pretty dang good. That's tough to do, but it's very exciting to get these kids in here. I'll try to, my voice is already starting to give out a little bit, so I don't want to get too bogged down here. I'll kind of go position by position. I'll stick with receiver. Outside of Jerome Miles, you also added Kelshawn Johnson, the speedster from Hitchcock, another guy that runs, in the low, or I guess the mid tens in the 100 meter, shows the speed on film. Definitely a guy you can play in the slot and take the top off and things like that. Very, very good prospect. So you had 2, noted super fast receivers with their track times. The other guy, Tristan Norman, receiver from, I think he's from Alabama. Yes, he's from Carver High School in Montgomery. I don't think he had a track time. Let me see. Yeah, it just says competes in track and field on his profile. So, but he's 6 foot 167, lighter guy, but seems like he can really run and play the position really well. So a 3-man haul, it's pretty solid, and certainly loved the the speed aspect. Comment here from John Thomas Wood. Appreciate this, John. Glad you have something to celebrate outside of Aggie football. We've missed these. Same here. As mad as I was after that Texas game, being able to, look at my son and be like, okay, this is just a game. There's bigger things, obviously, in life, and that's certainly one of them. So yeah, glad to be back doing this. Hopefully, we'll have a lot more in the coming weeks. I tend to keep going, and not take a big off-season break this year. So we'll keep sitting down and keep hitting the record button. But thank you for the kind words. Elsewhere, I think maybe the strongest spot in this signing class is the offensive line. Not just Rodgers, but he obviously is the cornerstone. You had to get him. But there's a couple of guys I really like a lot. Nelson McGuire is an interior O lineman from Midlothian, 6'4", 320, super strong, super technical in his technique already. He's a guy, maybe not this coming season, but the one following, can kind of break his way into the mix there as a redshirt freshman. Very high on him. Think he's an absolute stud of a prospect. Excited to get him in the mix. So you put him and Rodgers on the same side of the line, you're going to be able to run the football for sure. So big fans of those two guys. I actually was a big fan of Connor Carty, who did decommit, ended up at Texas Tech. I know Tech is not a name school, but I did like his film quite a bit. Thought he could become something. But the other top guy I'm pretty high on is Marcus Garcia, tackle from Denton Ryan, listed at 6'5", 270. I think he's a bit heavier than that now. Senior tape is really strong, and I think he's a guy. He may not be quite 6'5", and may not have the length of a guy like Lamont Rogers. So he could end up being an interior guy. He could be a center, to be quite honest. But could play guard, could play right tackle and do just fine. But great footwork, powerful dude. Still a lot of room to fill out, and very like all three of these guys, and really Garcia and McGuire, super technical and polished already at playing offensive line in their young career. So that gives you some hope, and I think those three are three you can really build with. But there's 6 total. I mean, Jonte Newman, 4-star tackle from Bridgeland in Cyprus, 6'4", 275, really strong player. And then a couple others to round us out. Tyler Thomas, more of these last two are kind of your road grader types. 6'4.5", 317, 6'3", 315 in Tyler Thomas and Josh Moses. Definitely interior guys, I think, on the next level, and obviously guys with the size and frame to make an impact. So 6-man haul, it's pretty strong on the offensive line. I think, honestly, last year in that class, probably the strength was the offensive line as well. So you're starting to get a lot of guys in here that can, in this room, that can help you out down the road and improve your standing in that position. So really excited about that. Also, defensive back, added speed, just every one of these guys is fast. They're all fast, and that's what we've been screaming from the mountaintops for so long. Like, hey, we need speed at receiver and on the back end because we're getting burnt. And Adonis Curry, I think the highest rated of this bunch. Actually, he's behind Rashad Johnson, the safety from Florida. But Adonis Curry, cornerback from Lancaster, California, 6'1", 170. I think he had like a pretty crazy track time as well, if I can find it. Yeah, 10.5 in the 100 meters, so plenty fast in his own right. Very, very, he's a top 100 kid, 63 nationally on the composite, 76 by 247's own ratings. Big time player at corner. He's a guy, honestly, who could make an impact next season just due to the depth chart. Because I think Terry Bussey stays on offense. If Terry Bussey was on defense, I think he'd be, out there on the island at corner. But I think he's going to be, they're going to keep him in offense in the offseason. So look out for Curry and Jamar Bill Goins. Like this kid from Arizona, man, he skyrocketed up the rankings this season. Had some insane test numbers. Clocked a 10.4 300 meter, has a documented 40-inch vertical. There's other stuff that came up back during his commitment, but just a super athletic guy on the back end at 6 foot 170. So he's not a small guy either. So that's two pretty great corner prospects right there. Rashad Johnson, the safety, 6'2", 200 from Florida, top 75 player nationally as well. So I know there's another guy down here, Kobe Sellers, the corner from Pearland, Shadow Creek, 5'11 and a half, 175. Haven't watched his film. I know he played quarterback for them last year, so I need to see if he actually played corner this year and see how he did. But little rusty on the vocals. Let's do D-line. I think you got three guys here on the interior who can all play at a very, very high level in college. DJ Sanders, highest of the bunch, defensive tackle from Belleville. Actually, I should have got the dang. They posted the height and weights that our coaches verified. So these are a little bit off because I know he's heavier than this, but he's listed at 6'4", 290. I think he's 6'4", I think 305 or 310 per the coaches. So I'm going to try to pull that up later or maybe next show. But just a stud defensive tackle. Like this is the guy, when the state of Texas produces a kid like this, you want to grab him. Just a total, just explosive off the ball, game-wrecking type defensive tackle. Very excited about that because we have seen what that can do for your team here at A&M and elsewhere to have those monsters up front. This guy's one of them. I'm not sure if anybody made a bigger jump in the rankings from an A&M perspective than Chase Sims. D tackle from Richmond Randall here in Texas, 6'2 and a half, 305, was somewhere outside of the like in the 500s, I think, or 600s, up to 130 nationally on the composite. Had a very, very strong senior year, very quick off the ball as well. Maybe more of a true nose, but just a very, very strong and physical football player with some good explosion as well. So, and then I think the most underrated player, well, one of them, because there's two right here I'm looking at, but Landon Rink, D tackle from, I guess D lineman from Cy-Fair, 6'2", 280, freak in the weight room, insanely productive at this level. I think he has his, I'm on 247 by the way, looking at all this. So I think they have his numbers, like his stats on here. As a junior, had 70 tackles, 30 TFLs, 15 sacks, 5 passes batted up, a forced fumble and 2 fumble recoveries. He reminds me, if you watched Florida State last season or watched the Rams this season, they had a D lineman named Braden Fisk who I think transferred in from somewhere up north, but just super explosive. Like not the biggest guy. I think Fisk was 290 at the combine, but just a elite first step, very just explosive off the line and high motor type guy. And I feel like you hear high motor and you think, oh well, that means he's not athletic or not strong. Like this kid set records in the weight room. It's Cy-Fair, and I think at a combine won like strongest man or something like that. So I don't really know why he's ranked this low. I know that, and I hate to be that guy to complain about rankings because to a certain point, it doesn't really matter on a per player basis, but and they rank off NFL projectability. So I mean, if you think this kid maybe doesn't have the highest ceiling, athletically, that's understandable to a certain point, but on tape he's definitely a 4-star prospect and very 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 strong get for this staff. Dad played at Texas in the 90s, by the way, so there's that. And then the lone edge in this class, edge rusher, Marco Jones from California, 6'5", 240, so already got got plenty of frame, already got some size. I think played off the ball last season. I think he played more outside this year. I need to go back and watch him, but the athletic gifts, the physicality, that's all on tape. I mean, he's a top 150 kid nationally. Really, really great prospect. If there is a hole in this class, I think quarterback is going to be TBD, and I think maybe you could have got a second edge rusher to go along with Jones, but that's something that you have to keep doing. You have to keep. You got some good defensive ends this year. You got to keep bringing them in. Jones is one. They grabbed Solomon Williams last season, so yeah, you just got to keep it up. But what have we missed so far? We got receiver, O-line, D-line, secondary, tight end. Real quick, this is the guy you want to get out of the state of Texas. Keoti Armstrong from Jasper, 6'6", 248. Watching him play for Jasper against a bunch of other 4A kids is pretty hilarious. He's an absolute physical freak. May not make an immediate impact because he played both ways. At Jasper, obviously tight end and some defensive end. Could do that here, but I think he's a tight end all the way. This is the guy that's a two-way tight end. He's got the size and the physicality to be a plus blocker, which, as we saw last weekend, this offense really needs that. We don't really have it right now. This is your guy. Armstrong is your guy as far as a physical blocker, but plenty of explosion and ability in the pass game. Catches the ball effortlessly. Just everything you want in a tight end. And Colin Klein is gonna love this kid. It wouldn't shock me to see him get on the field, some next year, and see how he does. But Armstrong, that's your guy at tight end for the future. Linebacker, probably of all these, like there's some prospects here that I really really like, and there always is, and we do a pretty good job generally of getting good players. But when I watch these guys, one by one, my favorite out of all of them is Noah McHale, the linebacker from Laverne, California. 6'3", 227, and this is another spot we talked about, offensive tackle. He's 4-star kid, rated 120 nationally, but this is the best linebacker we've signed in a long time. I think at the same point I would have him over Adrian Cooper, who obviously turned into a second-round draft pick, I think, and was an All-American. So I'm not saying that McHale can do that, but at the same point, this kid, so he's just a really, really smart and fast and violent football player. You go watch his tape, and it's man, that's what you want to see out of a linebacker. Just flying around, hair on fire, lighting people up, explodes and just lights up ball carriers. Does some stuff on offense as well at running back and I think tight end, but just a just a violent, fast, smart linebacker. That's what you want leading your defense right there. I'm a big fan of Noah McHale. Elsewhere, Kelvion Riggins is your other linebacker from right here in Texas, up in Forney. Not the biggest frame, 5'11 and a half, 205, but kid is built like a brick outhouse, if you will. Just looks like he's carved out of granite. And his tape's pretty nice. Like he's never gonna have, he's not dissimilar to your current middle linebacker, Torian York. Tori's never gonna be, he's never gonna be 6'4" and long arms and that sort of thing. But he does have speed. He's very strong and very physical. I think he's a great pairing with McHale in this linebacker class. To top us or to before we hit QB, we took two running backs here that I really like. I don't think either one is your 5-star like all-American type of back, but you got two guys that should complement each other pretty well. DeAndre Ryden, he goes by Tiger Ryden. Plays at DeSoto, which I think you should take a kid from DeSoto every year. This is one I would certainly take this season. Was their starting running back as a sophomore, which is very hard to do on that at that program, which I think is probably the best program in Texas right now. And just he's 5'10", 195, doesn't have like super breakaway speed, but is built, has a very compact and very strong build, and just does not go down with an arm tackle. Like you see high school kids just bouncing off of him and really struggling to get him down. And he's got some wiggle for a bigger built type of guy. Very strong on his legs and has great balance, but great vision. And I think he's a kid that, if you had him this season, like if say next year, if you had some unfortunate injuries at running back and had to put him in the game, I think he could still be a very productive player for you, and you wouldn't be worried about getting down to your last running backs because he's a pretty dang good one. The other one they flipped a couple days ago from Missouri, Jamarian Morrow from Memphis, 5'9", 180. Again, I don't think either one of these guys are just absolute burners, but Morrow is definitely more of the lightning of the two. Exceptionally quick, runs very low to the ground, has that jump cut that you'll see with some quicker backs. Just, excellent quickness. Very hard to tackle in the open space, but honestly, his balance and just his overall playmaking, like he played running back, he showed he can catch the ball really well. Played some receiver, played some defensive back, got some interceptions, played quarterback a little bit, and did just fine doing that. And I think this is a very good pairing. We saw this year with how you need a lot of running backs in this league, in this conference. You got two good ones right here. So definitely excited about that. Now, the quarterback, I'll be frank, I have not watched a ton. I will say the kid that flipped away from A&M to USC, I love. I'm a big fan of him. Hassan Longstreet, 5-star kid from California, staying in state, going to USC. Hated to lose him. Hated it. I think he's going to be a hell of a player. But you got two guys here. Maybe one is the preferred walk-on, Eli Morcos, but the other guy, Brady Hart, was a junior until, I guess right now, and had been committed to Michigan. They go out, get Bryce Underwood, and our guys were in contact with him. We're like, hey, you can graduate early. Why don't you do that and join our 2025 class as our quarterback commit? So that's what he did. He reclassified from 26 to 25. He's from Cocoa, Florida. 6'4", 180. Definitely looks like has that build, very tall, lean guy. he can spin it pretty well. I think he was a top, 200 type guy nationally last class. When kids move up and they re-rank him, they really don't know where to put him. So he's not very high on the list of rankings right now after reclassifying, but he's certainly got tools. Very toolsy kid. Sorry, I lost my train of thought real quick. Was trying to get his stats pulled up here. But yeah, I mean, to be frank, I need to go back and watch some more of him. He showed plenty of arm strength. He can get the ball down the field, and is pretty accurate. Not, gonna dice teams up on the ground, but not certainly he's an adequate athlete. So we'll see. We'll see on that. They pulled the trigger pretty quick on him as soon as they realized that Longstreet was going to flip. But that's enough on recruiting. Let me take a sip real quick, and we'll hit these transfers because that's what's most important right now is the transfers. Okay, so as of right now, you had three receivers graduate. You had one hit the portal. You have what's this? 6 guys. You got 3. Yeah, you got a kid that's going to be a senior. You got 2 sophomores and 3 true freshmen, and then you just signed 3. So if there is a spot where last season it was kind of everything, but it was especially defensive back. We got 8 guys. I don't think they get 8 receivers this year, but they could get 4 or 5, and it wouldn't shock me. I think at least 3 is what you're going to see. And honestly, the names that you see out there are pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. A point that I do want to make, because you might ask this, you say, hey, we got transfer receivers last year. They were just okay. They weren't the best. Why should they be able to get better ones this year? So when it comes to the portal, and I think being in here and being established as a coaching staff, a year ago they had just gotten here. Elko's still trying to find who is, trying to fill his coaching staff out, trying to get high school recruiting, squared away and attack the portal. You probably weren't going to get the very top guys at that point. Those guys, like these guys, went into the portal knowing, hey, I'm looking at these 4 or 5 schools. I'm already knowing where I want to go. This staff didn't have that chance last year to really get, in the mix with a lot of those bigger name guys. Now the ones in the summer, they missed on. Lambert Smith stands out. I think he was top 5 in receiving this year in the SEC at Auburn. He certainly could have helped you, but a couple guys real quick at receiver. Kevin Concepcion from NC State. Excellent slot receiver. Extremely fast. Was the freshman of the year 2 seasons ago in the ACC. He's going to be able to go pretty much anywhere he wants. That's number 1, 1A or 1B on my list of wants. Right there with him is Micah Hudson from Texas Tech. If you don't know, Micah Hudson was a 5-star prospect in last year's class from right up the road from me in Lake Belton, Lake Belton High School. Could have gone to Bama, LSU, A&M, Texas. Ended up at Tech and put his name into the portal. He is going to be a guy that A&M goes heavily after, I would think, and he is probably number 1 of any of these guys of any position that I would want A&M to land. He's a true 5-star prospect. I don't care about his production or lack thereof at Texas Tech this season. I've seen what he can do. He was drawing comparisons to Garrett Wilson as a high school prospect, and certainly has that ability. So you get him, you got him for at least 2 seasons. He's not a one and done type guy with his with his eligibility that remains. So Hudson is one that we really, really, really need to go hard after, and I'm anxious to see how they do there. A couple other guys I'm pretty high on. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma was injured. I don't think he shows up on the stat sheet against Tennessee this year, but not any other game. So he didn't catch any passes, but was injured. Had a big year for them last year. Caught I think 38 balls. Was a more of a like certainly an outside receiver, like not a just a total burner. Like maybe he's probably your X, but 6'4", I think 205, 210, but can be a deep threat. Tracks the ball very, very well in the deep part of the field, and has great hands. So he's a guy to watch from Oklahoma. I believe he's Rodney Anderson's brother, if you remember him from back in the day, who went to Oklahoma. But yeah, he's from Katy, so could want to get back close to home, and we'll see how they do there. But he's another one who's up there at the top. One of my personal favorites is C.J. Daniels from LSU. Now, he was there for 1 season at LSU, came from Liberty, where he was all conference or something crazy because he had ridiculous numbers. But that kid can play. I mean, he can really, really play. I know LSU was loaded this season at receiver, and he was kind of banged up and didn't play a ton. But when he did, his skill was very obvious. Any of those four, multiples of those four, are really what you need. Concepcion, Hudson, Anderson, Daniels. Someone from that group has to be, or needs to be, in maroon and white next season. A couple others, Jace Brown. I don't know if he's officially in yet, but he's from K-State. Played under Colin Klein as a freshman. Great speed. Great speed. More of a, probably a 6 foot or so type guy. Not a great big guy or not real small either, but very fast. Could definitely help you out, and catches the ball well. Dane Key from Kentucky. Similar to Anderson. I don't know if you can get both of them because they're both so similar, but Dane Key has put up numbers with horrible quarterback play at Kentucky the past few seasons, so very interested to see how that one goes. I think they'll have some interest. Also, Berrien Brown from Kentucky, who I think leads the SEC in kick return touchdowns, like historically. Obviously, very, very fast player. Maybe not the most polished as a receiver, but I mean, with speed like that, you got to take a look at him, So, to round us out, so other receivers, Isaiah Satania is one from Arkansas. Was committed to A&M at one point. I believe his dad coaches track, is on the track coaching staff here at A&M. He's one to watch. They may go that direction. I'm pretty high on the ones I've kind of rattled off first, but Satania certainly wouldn't be a bad option. Some bigger names like Kojo Antwi, who A&M was hard after in the 22 class. Couldn't do much at Ohio State behind a loaded room, but that one's kind of TBD on his ability. And then Shelton Sampson from LSU was very highly rated. 5-star kid coming out, has done, basically nothing at LSU the past 2 seasons. So very curious about what's going on with him. But and there's other, like, there's going to be more enter every day. That's like, there's probably not even, there's barely a fraction of what's going to be in this thing by the time it's over with. So I think December 9th, they can, start getting officially contacted or whatever, and maybe taking visits. So this month is a really, really big month for transfer portal, activity. I would watch receiver very heavily. I think tight end is a need. I think edge is a need. I think safety is a need. And then quarterback, if the right guy is out there and you can get him in here, if say the next Cam Ward or Dylan Gabriel enters the portal, I think A&M would have to be very interested in trying to see if they can get in the mix for whoever that would be. But at this point, I have not seen a guy that is of that level of a quarterback go into the portal. So we'll see. I like what Reed can do, but you always need to be looking out and trying to make your team better. So, but yeah, I'm gonna call it a day, call it a night, call it an episode. Appreciate you guys tuning back in. We should have probably get some more guests on, get Robert back on, get his thoughts, and all that kind of stuff. But may not be every week, maybe every couple weeks. Try to get back in and give you some portal updates, and we're going to see guys leave A&M as well, and we'll talk about those too. So, as always, thanks so much. Go to TexasAggiesUnited.com, do your thing, and yeah, we'll see you soon.